What's going on? Welcome back to Keep It Real podcast. The whole reason I named the podcast Keep It Real is because a lot of the podcasts I listen to, or a lot of the ones that we all listen to, it's a lot of people that are 10 steps ahead of us who have already potentially made it, or they already have all of their successes and they've gone through their failures. It's never really, at least in my opinion, somebody who's in the trenches with us that you can really relate to. Yeah, you can take advice from them, but today is a perfect example because I'm going to go over how to reach your goals where I'm in the trenches. Like, this is something I struggle with. I self sabotage myself with, but I've also reached a lot of my goals. And it's always something that I kind of study, that I want to improve on. And it's a fascinating topic to me. And I have a love hate with it. I've heard a lot of my mentors who either love goals, or I've had some that hate it. And the ones that hate it, I understand why they hate it. And they say, I think one of them said, if you set a goal, you either get there and then like you stop, right? Which I'm guilty of, and like you just like it's just like there's an end to it, or you don't get there and you're a failure, and it like kind of hurt your confidence or your subconscious, right? So I think it's you got to be very intentional with how obsessive you get with it, and that's what I'm going to break down today. But basically, this game plan that I've put together and I've based off reading books and studying and my own experience makes the goal almost bulletproof or almost guaranteed to hit it. But then when you have it's why you set it and what specific goals you set that won't mess with your head, and it'll actually only lead to success. Because at the end of the day, everything that we do, we want to increase the probability that there's more pros than cons, right? We want to do things that have very little cons and more pros, right? So I'll get right into it. And the first thing I'm looking at notes too. So if you're watching this on YouTube and I'm not looking at the camera or a reel or whatever, I'm going to go over some notes just so I don't miss anything. But a lot of this just is off the top of my head based on my experience. And so everyone talks about setting goals, but most people stop there. I'm guilty of it. I always set 10, 20, 15 goals, and I never really get to any of them. I'm always kind of progressing, but there's never really end in sight, and I'm never really proud of myself completely. I always like to say I'm never satisfied, which is probably toxic. But it wasn't until I did 75 hard, I've set specific money goals, I've set specific fitness goals, and when you hit those and your plan works to a T, something about your confidence, something about the momentum and your opportunities just shift. And that to me is the definition of success. So how to do it, let's get into it right away. Is I think the most important thing is set a time one day for 30 minutes. It's 24 hours in a day. We all sleep like 6 to 8. That leaves us with 18, at least 15, 16 hours. Set aside a half of one of those hours one day. No phone, no distractions. You're by yourself. Go outside, go on a walk if you have to. Get a notebook or even on your phone. I like writing things down. You and your notebook, and just spend 30 minutes to answer these three questions. Write these down. Is why do I want this specific goal? So think of a specific goal. Either it's a skill that you want to learn, it's a dollar amount or an amount of sales that you want to make, or a fitness goal, amount of weight you want to lose or strength you want to gain. Why do I want this goal? And number two is how would my life change if I actually got this goal? So try to imagine yourself or visualize yourself hitting that goal. What would really change, right? If you got in really good shape, what does that mean? Would you be more confident? Would you finally like want to take your shirt off at the beach? If you set a specific money goal, would you finally be able to buy that next house or invest a certain amount into the stock market? Or would you be able to buy certain things you've never been able to buy? And then number three is what's stopping me now from doing it. So the number three I like the most, and this one's almost the hardest for me personally to get through, is because these are the things that are standing in the way, right? And for me, like I'll admit it on here because we're vulnerable, is when I did 75 hard, I really like to be like a weekend warrior. I love my weekends. I go out with friends. I have some cocktails and some wine, and I eat bad. And all my fitness gains from the week would go back to baseline. So I'm never really getting more out of shape, but I'm never getting in better shape because it's just more of like a rat race. It's like do all of Monday through Friday, I kill it. Then the weekend comes and I kind of take a step back, but because I killed it all week, now I'm at baseline, right? It wasn't until 75 hard that I saw really good results because I didn't have those weekends, right? So what's stopping you right now from reaching this current goal? If it's a money goal, are you just tired? Is your energy down? Do you not want to make the cold calls? Do you not want to commit to certain something? Like are you on social media too much? Do you have too much distraction, screen time? You like watching TV at night? Think of all the things that are stopping you from actually pulling it off now. So once you're clear on those three, now this is all in that 30 minutes that you're sitting or going on a walk or something. Once you're clear on that, imagine you're giving advice to someone who wants that same goal. So the reason for this, and I love like everything that I do in life, if you know me personally, I'm all about like perception of things, right? Because humans, for some reason, we have way too many emotions and we get so worked up and we stand in our own way because of how many emotions we have. And it's like the analogy of like when people come to you with marital problems or they're in a fight with their spouse, you can give such good advice, but you're never taking your own advice. It's the same thing. So when you get these three, now put yourself in a position, if somebody came to you with this exact same goal, you take the emotion out of it, you stop making excuses, and you start to think logically, what advice would you give them, right? Think about it, like just pretend you're on a couch and you're talking to them and they really want to hit this goal and you know exactly what it takes to get to that goal. What advice would you give them? Build the simple plan out, right? If you want to get in shape, you know you have to eat a specific diet for 90 days. You'll lose X amount of weight per week, X amount of percent of body fat each week. If you do that for 90 days, there's no way you can't get from this to this body fat to this body fat. It's physically almost impossible, right? Especially if you don't have any distraction and you stick to the plan. And then so you want to be very intentional about how long would it take to get there if you stuck to the exact plan. What has to go? Habits, distractions, even people. What will block your progress, right? You're giving somebody advice. How long will you have to stay consistent with this? What do you need to do daily? What's the exact plan? What do you need to remove? And how long is it going to take if you actually stick to that? We should be able to have an idea based on your actions. If it's money and you're in sales, how many calls does it take to get to an appointment? How many appointments do you think it would take to get to a sale? And then how many sales would it take to get to that goal if you really went all in, right? And at that point, this is when it gets really important. And this is why I love 75 hard so much, is you either got to say yes or no, right? You either agree to commit to that. If it's a 90-day plan or a 60-day plan, even a 30-day plan, are you going to agree to it or not? And it's not like, 95% or 80%, because that's what we're all doing right now. We do as much as we can, and then we give up on certain days, or we half-ass at certain days, and that's why we don't reach our big goals, right? This would be a goal that's big enough for you to potentially reach, but it will change your life once you do reach it, right? So if it's a yes, you need to stick to that plan. That's why I love 75 hard. You're either doing it or you don't, and people know if you like half-assed it and you cheated, or if you stuck to it, because there's an app and you cannot move on to the next day on the app unless you finish all 6 things, right? And if it's a no, that's okay. But this just means, and this is where the whole psychology part, subconscious part of it comes into play, that this just means that the goal doesn't matter enough to you, or you didn't put enough, it's not a good enough goal that's going to change your life. I think we all are lacking progression in some aspect of our life, and we all should have this some sort of goal in mind. Figuring out what that is going to take a couple alone times with your journal and just sitting down and be like, what would really move the needle forward in your life? And it's really not luck. These are I saw an interview the other day with Nick Saban. And for those of you who don't know Nick Saban, he was one of the best college football coaches, and he recruited anybody would want to go to Alabama if you're playing college football. If he called you, you no, you made it, right? And he said somebody asked him what differentiates the best of the best versus those who don't? Is it people just born with it? And he said that he would see athletes who had freak genetics all the time who wouldn't do as well because they didn't have the mindset, they didn't stick to the plan, they just based their outcome on what they were born with. And then you had people that had less good genetics that had insane work ethic, insane goals and they stuck to it and progression, and they ended up having an amazing career. And then obviously if you put those both together, it becomes the biggest legends in the world. But like it's the same thing with business and goals. It's not luck, it's literally math. If you reverse engineer your goals, you make the sacrifices and stick to the plan, it's physically almost impossible to fail. And when you think about it that way and you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, if you were to give them advice, there's no better guarantee in life than a guarantee to hit your goals. So practice this, try it. I've done it a couple times. This podcast alone makes me want to do it again. Do it with money, do it with your relationship, do it with your physical health, do it with a lot of things. And you can pick one for now, or you can pick multiple, but then stick to it. It's going to suck certain days when you don't feel like it and you want to go out and drinking with your friends. But I promise you, those days when it sucks, as cliche as it sounds, and you get through those hard days, those are the ones that start to compound. Because those are the ones where you take one step back, like what I was telling you about my gym, is if I just skip one weekend at a time where I'm not a weekend warrior, those start to compound because I'm taking 5 steps forward, 5 steps back. If I don't do those 5 steps back, now the 5 turns to 10 to 15 to 20, you just gain momentum so quickly, right? So do that, stick to it. If you have to sign up for an app like I did, or get a contract with your buddy, or put money down on it and tell the world that you're doing it, whatever you can to actually stick to it and just prove to yourself that it's possible, then your confidence skyrockets and the momentum just compounds from there. So that's basically the bulletproof approach of how to actually reach your goals, the no fluff way, and what successful people are doing to reach their goals. But if you're like me and you really like to see progression, but you want proof of it, do it this way, put it in writing in a journal. It seems like a lot of work, but it's 30 minutes, sit down, and it's going to change your life. And you're going to look back in 45 to 90 days and be like, oh my gosh, I cracked the code. This is what the best of the best do. It's funny. I'll end with this, is a lot of us have very similar lives, skill sets, temptations, we're all very similar, right? There's some people that have higher IQs or different genetics or whatever, but are all very similar. And it always interests me that there's always the top 1% and the people that do significantly better than the rest of the world. And if you study them, you realize they do stuff like this very intentionally. They sacrifice a lot of distractions, a lot of temporary dopamine hits for long-term success. And as intense as it feels in the moment, your brain starts to enjoy that dopamine rush a lot more. And that dopamine rush actually changes your life and those around you, rather than the ones that just feel good in the moment and you look back and you have a lot of regrets, because time is flying. Time is of the essence. And I mean, it's the only thing you can't gain back. It's lost time and you cannot gain back. So try this out. Message me what your goal is, or once you figure this out and how you like it, and then reach those goals, and then tell me what you learned from it, right? You learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about how little of goals you've been setting. And it's pretty cool. I mean, that's the definition of success. So if you can stick to it, things will start to change. So hopefully this was helpful. See you guys on the next one. Let me know your thoughts.